Hey everyone, this is Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 81 of Album of the Day, in which today I'm going to do a little bit of a throwback review that I've been wanting to do for a while. It's a review from a band that I've reviewed a couple of times before on this channel. One indie rock band that I feel is definitely one of the most consistent bands to be putting out music. You know, not just in indie, but like in general. The band is named Spoon. They're from Austin, Texas, and I'm here to talk about their fifth studio album, released on Merge Records in May of 2005, and one of their biggest selling albums, actually. The album is called Gimme Fiction. I've been wanting to review this record for a while because I think this is one of their best albums. So yeah, this is a used copy that I bought at Soundgarden a couple of years ago when I started getting into the band after hearing their most recent album, They Want My Soul, which I do have a CD copy of. And there's a CD and there's a photo of the band playing on stage, which the lineup during the Gimme Fiction era consisted of Britt Daniel on vocals and guitar, Jim Eno on drums, Eric Harvey on piano and keyboards, and Joshua Zarbo on bass. And Merge Records actually recently released a revamped version of this album, so it's kind of a coincidence I'm reviewing it right now. I don't have the reissue. I just have the original version released in 2005. And love the artwork on this album. Anyway, these are the lyrics. Sorry it's a little bright, but there are the lyrics. And flip it over and then there's the lyrics for the second half of the album. Yeah, just some really nice artwork on here. Designed by Sean McCabe is the artist. And that's my CD copy of the album Gimme Fiction. This album has so many interesting moments on it that I figured I'd just kind of break it down track by track. Starting with the opening song on here, The Beast and Dragon Adored, which was actually the last song written for the album. Some of the facts that I've actually recently learned about the songs on here came from a little site called GimmeFacts.com, which the band posted up when they were just about getting ready for this reissue of the album, featuring a bunch of home demos and stuff like that, as well as the full 11-song album. So this was the last song written for the album by Britt Daniel. And what I really like about this track is how it references basically the rest of the songs on the album without giving you too many spoilers or anything like that. And plus, you know, it definitely does show a change stylistically in the band's sound. You know, there was mostly just only like left piano or right piano tracks, but now there's like piano and keyboards everywhere on this album. A lot of it's played by Britt Daniel. Eric Harvey was the one doing them all on the tour, but on here it was mostly Britt doing those parts. Like on this record, a majority of it was basically Britt playing all the guitars, the bass, the piano, and stuff like that, and then Jim Eno playing drums. And plus, I really like that noisy guitar solo at the end of the song. It's, it's definitely a riff that's definitely trademark Britt Daniel. It's not like a Brian May riff or anything like that. It's definitely a Britt riff because he does like these weird sounds on the guitar that are basically the kind of solos he does, and they just sound awesome. And the title comes from like some sort of book or something like that called like The Beast and Dragon Are Adored. or stuff like that. It's like a reference to like the apocalypse or stuff like that. Um, and the title of the album originally was supposed to be "The Beast and Dragon Are Adored," but eventually they changed it to "Gimme Fiction," which I guess kind of fits better with the album as opposed to using the title of the opening song for the title of the record. And then you follow that with the two sides of Monsieur, Valentine, which this was a song Britt Daniel was drinking a lot during the recording of this album. So in the morning he grabbed the beer cans and but he decided instead of kind of writing about that, he would write kind of this weird, unusual, amusing story about an unusual character who wants to land the part of Eddie in the Stranger Dance. So he came up with definitely one of the most cleverly written Spoon songs out there. It's definitely a truly out there track, and it features like some like Ringo-esque drumming from Jimino, as well as Britt kind of doing his usual thing on the guitar. And this is one of two tracks on the album where members of the Tosca String Quartet provided some really lovely string parts to the song, or to the recording. This is one song that they provided their amazing string parts to. And then you have the lead single on the album, "I Turn My Camera On," and this is definitely it definitely does make sense as the single because it's probably one of the danciest songs Spoon have ever done. I mean, if you turned it on in a bar, people would start dancing. It's not like, super like fuzzy kind of dancey. It's more just, it's got a nice groove to it. Like the bass line and the vocal on it kind of remind me of the Bee Gees a little bit. This is the song that the band pretty much wanted this to be the single because of how unusual and kind of weird this track was, and they didn't want to put out some typical poppy single. However, Merge did suggest that they put out Sister Jack as a single, which they did. And both songs have a video for it. Like, "I Turn My Camera On" has kind of a weird video going on. It's so weird that even the band never really got it. And then you have the just fantastic, incredible song, "My Mathematical Mind," which is the only song on the album to have Britt, Jim, Eric, and Josh playing together on one song. This was the one song where they all wanted to play it together, so it kind of gave it kind of this, kind of live, in the moment feel, and basically, Eric does an incredible piano riff on here, so he's the one playing it, and he did it well, but it was really Britt coming up with the riff that goes da-na, 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 da-na. But yeah, with how good Eric's take on that riff sounds, it's pretty hard to tell that he didn't write the riff, Britt did. And the lyrics do kind of, reflect on, there are definitely a lot of songs on this record where I'm still trying to figure out what some of them are about. In fact, some of these tracks I don't even bother to pay attention to the lyrics and I just focus on the music. But yeah, just a really great song, and it once again has one of the better solos that I've heard Britt crank out, and definitely one of his best solos, period, was on that particular song. And then it also contains this dramatic organ, and then there are these horns that come in at the end that are kind of way in the background. They're they're mixed down, but I think they add a really nice touch to the song. Uh, and like, this is definitely one of the most dramatic songs that I think Spoon have ever created, or crafted. And it's followed by the song The Delicate Place, which, is like a deep cut, because the band, I don't think I've ever played this one live. There are quite a few songs on here that they've never played live. The Delicate Place happens to be one of them, but I think it's an interesting track. I like to think of it as like kind of the continuation of the My Mathematical Mind story, except not as cinematic as that one, but still a good song, and has a pretty nice and it has a pretty nice, like, George Harrison inspired riff on it. Then there's the then coming in is probably one of the most accessible poppy songs that the band uh, has ever put out. Sister Jack. It's kind of, just, kind of a good, pop rock song with bright riffs and all that stuff. But then, the unusual thing about this song is that there's actually the use of some sound effects in the middle. Basically what they did was they used a Moog or a Juno synthesizer and used a filter to create these weird sound effects of like a horse whinnying and stuff like that. Basically, they wanted to do that because they felt like if they just use a guitar solo, it would just sound like a predictable, boring pop song. So yeah, that's kind of the unusual touch they did. But then there is another unusual touch of the song. There's like a backwards guitar solo at the end. And plus they have this pretty funny video for the song. You watch it and it looks as if you actually know the band or something like that. Definitely one of the weirdest videos that I think they've ever shot would have to be that one. It features one scene features Britt Daniel in a Mexican restaurant and there's a mariachi band and there's fajitas on the table. So it's like a pretty crazy video that they did for that song that ended up as one of the singles. Once again, it makes sense as a single because it's singles usually have a pretty poppy, accessible feel to them. Up next, you have the song "I Summon You," another one of my favorite songs on here. Definitely has kind of a Bob Dylan kind of feel to it in terms of the lyrics. The weight of the world. It's a sound we used to buy on cassettes and 45 records. It's definitely if we got that kind of Dylanism going on, which makes sense because the band was listening to a lot of Dylan in the making of this record, and this is definitely one of the best songs that I think they've written would have to be this song. The lyrics definitely. This is a song that I think Bob Dylan would be very proud of, in terms of the the lyrics going on in this track, and it's very acoustic driven, kind of like Dylan, and probably the one unusual touch on here would have to be the bass line and the reverb echoed piano that occurs in the song, and it's definitely a live favorite for sure. They play that one in pretty much every concert, I think. Then here we go into some of the deeper cuts. We have the song "The Infinite Pet," which is definitely a very, very deep cut. In fact, this is one song on the record that the producer, Mike McCarthy, actually said he didn't like. But me personally, I think it's an interesting track. It's not the best song on the album, but it's still a good song. The elements in it sound pretty cool, like the delayed kalimba and the weird, spacey organ that occurs, too, as well as that. Has pretty nice piano rhythm going on. It's like... I don't really... Not much to say about the lyrics on here, but but I think the elements actually make it a pretty interesting deep cut. Uh, Get a pretty interesting deep cut. So yeah, this is actually, yeah, this is a pretty good song in terms of like the unusual elements going on. But it's not really it's not the best song on here. And it is featured in the movie 500 Days of Summer, for those who didn't know. Because the band has had their fair share of use of their songs in like shows like the OC and movies like Stranger Than Fiction. Following that is the very experimental Was It You that is kind of a... This is one song that they didn't record with Mike McCarthy. This is one song where the session started out actually recording with John Vanderslice and Scott Solter. And this is the one song that occurred during those sessions, was this one. And it's definitely kind of this one definitely takes a few listens before you really understand it. The first time I heard this song, I thought it was a little boring, but as I kept listening to the record and kept trying to figure out what it was trying to say, I understood the song better, and as of right now, I think it's one of the most interesting and intriguing tracks on the record. Has Eddie Robert doing this, cool little bass line that has this kind of weirdness to it that's referred to in the liner notes as a creepy bass, as well as like the bell, as well as the bell-driven drum section on there. As well as this guitar that kind of creeps in. It's definitely, definitely kind of the band shows the band going for like something a little creepy in terms of the sound, and the lyrics say like, what was it? What we saw that night? Was it you? And I think that kind of fits in with the album cover, since it's a real sinister artwork of Red Riding Hood on it, which I think was a pretty cool idea. And in the booklet you see she's like holding a wolf mask and a picnic basket and stuff like that. So I think it kind of that song kind of fits in with the cover art a little bit. And then there's the track They Never Got You, which definitely has kind of a John Lennon feel. Pretty much the only element of the song that doesn't sound like John Lennon is the bass line. But it's still a good song though. Like I do really like the mellotron strings in the middle of it. And stuff like that. It's definitely, again, another song that they've performed live a good amount. And then it closes with Merchants of Soul, which has a good drum part as well as the percussion section is pretty interesting. It's Jimino's drums blended in with some clapping and stuff like that. It's a pretty interesting beat going on. And then once again has some very lovely string arrangements from the Tosca string players. So yeah, this is definitely one of the best records of 2005, and one of the best records that I think Spoon have ever put out. Probably my second favorite, next to Kill the Moonlight, which I reviewed last year. Still love that record. Still like to listen to it on vinyl. And Gimme Fiction is another record that I think it shows the band taking risks and all that stuff. The band pretty much would do the same thing with their album Ga 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 Ga, which I think that's a good album. That is a good album. There's some really good songs on here, but Gimme Fiction's also holds really well, and I think it's a better album than Ga 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 Ga. So yeah, that's my review of the album Gimme Fiction. Don't know if I'm gonna get the reissue or not. Maybe, maybe not, but we'll see. But yeah, that's my review of this fantastic record by one of the best indie rock bands, I think, period, Spoon. And I'll see you for episode 82.